Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the next episode of Frankly Speaking, where we talk to everybody in pop culture, from video game developers to voice actors to wrestlers. And today is a very special day for me. I am joined by Ciwiel, the community manager of Demeo. For those of you that don't know, Demeo holds a very special place in my heart. I was very, very excited about this game from very early on, and I'm going to let Ciwiel explain a little bit more about it. So, Ciwiel, for those that may not know what Demeo is, could you briefly explain a little bit about the game?
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you so much for having me. So basically, Demeo is a VR multiplayer board game, and it's a dungeon crawler. And you play 1 to 4 players. You can play solo as well if you prefer. And basically, you take on the role of an assassin, a hunter, a sorcerer, or a guardian, and you dive deep into the catacombs of Demeo. And your goal is to free the mad Elvin King or die trying.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. I love this game. It's definitely one of my more favorites. But I have to know, how did the idea of Demeo come about? Like, how did this idea come to be?
Oh, that's such a good question because there are so many creative forces that have been part of making Demeo. And what actually was like at the beginning, the thought was just to make a multiplayer board game in VR. So that
Right.
was the outline basically. But then, of course, you had to make prototypes and try it out to see if it's actually fun. So
Mhm.
they did that, and it was instantly super satisfying. So after that, we just knew we had to make it, and that we did. I mean, fast forward a while, of course, but yeah.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Were you surprised by the success of Demeo when it launched back on May 6th, with how many people were interested in the game previous to launch, and then of course just the massive player base on day one?
I mean, as a developer or as a game studio, sorry, you always hope that it's going to happen for you, that it will blow up and people will be
Right.
like super exciting, but you never know until it's out there. And it would just feel like so overwhelmed with just happiness with it, with how it's been received. And we're very, very lucky and thankful for the reception. And yeah, we're going to continue to do our best to just keep making Demio as good as it can be.
So we see that you guys recently released an update to the game. Could you talk us a little bit about some of the changes that you've made since the update and what that could possibly do to help players?
Yeah, of course. So we did release one update since release,
Mhm.
and what it is was mostly fixing some issues that happened. As with all games, you do test a lot before releasing a game, but
Of
then
course.
when you now like release it to a big crowd, people are going to do things you never even thought of, like in the testing, or you have a bunch of different headsets and situations and Wi-Fi's and all of that stuff.
Mhm.
So basically what we did was we fixed some desynchronization issues, for example. Some people are having issues with some disconnects, which helped a little bit with that. And we had this weird issue with like light flickering that
Huh.
some players had. So we fixed that. That must have been really annoying, but we had like, you could have, you could move around the issue basically, but we fixed it permanently. Um, and so basically it was just making sure that we removed some of the issues that some player had. One really funny issue was that you could, so basically in the shop, you could kind of trick cleepto and keep buying things even though you were out of money. So no more, no
Huh.
more luring him in the bazaar after that update.
You hear that, ladies and gentlemen? Cleepto got smart and figured out your tricks. You can't do that anymore. So
Yes.
that is amazing. It's fantastic to hear that you guys were able, like, it's amazing to hear that not only were you guys like testing so heavily before launch, but also when you guys went into launch. I saw it on the Discord very heavily, but also just like the community noticed, I think, as well. That update didn't come very long after the launch. Do you know what I mean? So it really shows that you guys are paying attention and listening to the community, which personally I absolutely love. So from the bottom of my heart, and I'm sure a lot of the community members will agree with me, we appreciate the hard work that you and the team are doing. One of the biggest questions I was asked on Discord was whether or not we are going to eventually be able to play new modules throughout the lifespan of this game. And I'm just wondering if you could touch on maybe if there's going to be new modules coming up and how they will be implemented into the game, either free, DLC. How will that work?
So we're actually working on the first one now. We have announced it. It's called the Realm of the Rat King,
Mhm.
and it's going to be out this summer. We haven't actually announced. Yeah, it's pretty soon. I mean, we haven't announced a specific release date yet, but it's coming.
Of course.
So what's going to be happening is that there's going to be a new environment and other surprises. We don't want to spoil too much, but we're going to keep sharing things up until the release.
Okay.
But yeah, we're not going to remove the current content. We're just going to keep adding stuff, and it's going to be for free. And we're going to keep updating on a bunch of free stuff. We've said that we might do paid DLC in the future, but it's like a might maybe in the future, because we can't say never, because you never know what happens. But
Absolutely.
for the foreseeable future, everything will be free and included.
Awesome. I think the community will love to hear that word. I know I do. That's for sure. Being a new father, definitely hearing things are going to be free are definitely a benefit. So I do have to ask, this is more of a silly question just because I see it all the time on Twitter. I see it all the time on Facebook and everywhere else. We see the call. The call has been made for you guys to create Demeo merchandise. It's been proclaim to the heavens. Has the
Yes.
call been heard from us community members? Has there been any talk at all of potentially releasing this merchandise to the general public in the future?
The call has certainly been heard. It's certainly been heard, and we would love to do it. I mean, it's so rewarding, and just we didn't expect people to start asking about this. It's something that you hope you'll be able to do, but when people ask about it, that's like the best feedback you can possibly get.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we want to do it. It's just that it takes some time to set up. It's a bit more complicated than I personally would wish. I wish you could just like press a button and it would happen.
No, right.
I mean, it's that simple right now, but there are a lot of you have to look into taxes, boring things like, selling in different countries and where you're going to host it and who's going to produce it and stuff like that. So it's going to take a while, but we would love to do it. I just can't officially promise anything at this point because we haven't got it there yet.
No, of course. But you know what? I'm glad I got to ask one. There's literally, guys, in my little notes here that I have sitting beside me in brackets, it goes, this is a silly question. Don't worry.
It's a good question, though.
But bringing a tabletop RPG to VR definitely could not have been an easy task for you guys. You kind of briefly touched on it, but could you touch on a little bit more of maybe some of the struggles that you guys went through bringing a tabletop RPG into VR setting, or just like to any sort of setting in multiplayer like this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I probably should mention first that I'm personally not a developer, so I can't share my personal insights.
No, of course.
But I did ask around, or rather we did a Reddit AMA when we released the game. So I went through it. I'm like, okay, what did we say? So I did some digging and checked with the developers, and basically a couple of things that came to mind was, one thing is you have to be able to balance the graphics and making cool details and effects with the performance of the headsets. So that's one thing. You can't just make any sort of details and nitty-gritty tiny little things without keeping the performance in mind. So you have to prioritize where to focus, basically.
Right.
And then there's also this thing about balancing. So you want to make sure that the game is inviting and approachable, but at the same time, we know people want a challenge and want depth through the gameplay. So that was also a big challenge to just balance those elements.
Absolutely. And you know what? You guys did absolutely amazing on both ends. I actually own an original Oculus Quest and I play this game and I absolutely love it. I think that the mixture of visual effects with just the overlying tone of the game and the dungeon around it and the way that I find myself always communicating. It does not matter if it's even my turn. I'm always talking my next turn out with my teammates well before advance, because it's you don't want to make a move and then your teammates go, dude, what are you doing? You had this.
Absolutely.
And because maybe they saw something you didn't. So I think you guys have done something absolutely amazing, especially during these times, especially during COVID. You know what I mean? I personally have been dying for a tabletop RPG. So when I saw this coming, you knew my excitement. Once I jumped into that Discord, I was definitely one of the first people there. So we want to, of course, thank you for your time today. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, Ciwiel. But before we go, I have to ask, is there anything that you'd like to say to the Demeo community and as a whole there?
Oh, what do I do? I have the spotlight. Oh, no, but I mean, we just want to thank everybody who's supporting us in this journey, and you know, everyone who's joining us on Discord or talking to us or just playing the game. I mean, without the players, we would be nothing. So thank you so much for playing, and I hope you will continue to play, you know, as we keep releasing updates.
All right, guys. Well, that'll be all from us here. Thank you all so much for joining us here today. If you guys haven't yet, please consider hitting that subscribe button, hit that bell notification icon so you guys get notified every single time we go live. Of course, again, thank you to Ciwiel, the community manager for Demeo. Woo! Gotta give it a round of applause. We're gonna get like little effects there for you, like effects. Yeah. You know it. All right, guys. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.